Boardroom, Chapter 26, 3997 BC, Aftermath. So what'd the old man have to say, Bells? Jez asked. She sat on the edge of his field bed, holding a cold compress on her hero's forehead. Occasionally she leaned over and kissed his cheek. Each time she did so he winced, but she didn't seem to notice. He said there'd be another day. Really? Knapp said, incredulous. The next time we will be victorious, Ad said, slamming his fist down hard on the glass table. The crack in the surface formed some new streamers, but Ad paid no attention. He could not contain his bitterness and banged on the field table several more times. Finally, the center portion where the main crack had been shattered and glass sprinkled onto the floor beneath. Easy, friend, Luke said, putting his left hand on Ad's shoulder. You'll get your revenge. Ed sneered at him, but finally sat and buried his head in his hands. How and when will this revenge come? What do you know that we don't, Luke? Please enlighten us. I just got back from talking to Pops. And, well, it's as I expected, gentlemen. We have a certain amount of time to prove that our way is the best. That is, we deserve our freedom, Ed said, looking up. Yes, well, sort of. Sort of what? Jez said. Well, remember our little sortie in Eden? The others nodded. Well, those subjects are the testing ground. Oh, great, Bill said from his cot. Now hear me out, Luke said. Okay, what? We only won 1 out of the 3 times in that place, and those are inferior beings, Knapp said. Stupid, Ed said, gritting his teeth. He again slammed his fist down on the table, and this time sliced the hypothenar eminence of his hand above the little finger. Knapp came over and put pressure on it with his kerchief, and the brisk bleeding slowed to an ooze. As I was saying, these inferior beings are to be our testing ground, Luke said. They'll be like sheep. What will that prove, even if we win them all over to our side? Knapp countered. I'm not so sure, but as I see it, they do have one quality we can exploit. That is, Jez posed, they can choose. There was now silence in the room, save Bell's heavy breathing. He had finally succumbed to his concussion and exhaustion. Across the field of death, Junior could not be calmed. He was livid and still could not fathom what had just happened. 3 days of carnage, the first in the history of the universe, solved absolutely nothing. Not a soul on either side had changed his or her mind, and after such a debacle, he was sure no one ever would. Gabe had come to the same resolution on the events of the 3 days and was out directing burial efforts for both sides. Pops, how could you let this happen? Junior asked over and over. Junior, will you walk with me? No, we've got dead bodies out there by the thousands, and I need to help Gabe and the boys. Pops put his hand on Junior's right shoulder. Please, Gabe can handle it. Junior resolutely stepped out into the cool evening air. The stench of battle overwhelmed them both momentarily, but they turned on their ignore buttons and kept walking along the massive deck overlooking the carnage. Junior stopped and put both his hands on the brass rail and stared out over the horrible scene. I know it's difficult to grasp what transpired here today. I can't. How? His voice trailed off as emotion overcame him. Pops went on, as if ignoring his grief. There is but one rule in all the universe, Junior. Yeah, love, Junior barked. This is love? He gestured with his open hand to the blood-drenched field. Hardly. There is a simple way to say it, Pop said. Yeah, death. All must love their creator, their designer, their sustainer, and that is me. You sure blew that one, Junior smirked. And one must love his neighbor as he loves himself. I don't even love myself today, Junior said. On the contrary, son. No, I don't. I can't. Not with this field of blood staring me in the face. If love does not prevail, the universe, all I have built and love and sustain will collapse. All things will die. Life will be no more. Order and purpose are essential to all life. The laws of life, of the universe, are not followed. The universe will eventually fail. By definition, life is governed by exact laws. Each atom is an essential piece in the grand design of the universe. When even one is altered, a chain reaction is set in motion. Pretty soon there develops an area of chaotic activity, then grows larger and larger, and if left unchecked, eventually that area disrupts the entire universe. The result is utter chaos everywhere. It's what we see in front of us now. Chaos, death, and nothingness, Pop said, attempting to answer Junior's questioning mind. Junior stared out over the chaotic scene, but his wheels were slowly beginning to turn. He turned and stared into his father's eyes. So how am I going to fix this? He remembered what Pops had said earlier. Despite its heaviness, Pop's heart danced with glee as he realized maybe his son was beginning to see a little light. Remember when I said in every action there must be an equal reaction? Yeah, you say it every day, Dad. So, well, for every action today, there must be an opposite and equal reaction in order to restore order. So some good core angel has to die for every evil ink angel yet alive on the other side? Not quite. Everyone who shows allegiance to me can stay in the life order. Everyone who doesn't can't. They will cease to exist, or all will cease to exist. It's that simple? Not quite. Dad, Junior said, throwing his hands in the air, if someone chooses against me, but then recants, sees the light, then someone who didn't ever go against you, someone always loyal to you, must die in his place, Pop said. But if Gabe or somebody died for bells, for example, that wouldn't be fair. Gabe's did nothing wrong, yet he would be forever punished. I don't get it. Remember, all Bell's troops have taken that final step. They will have some time to prove their way is right. But you and I know it isn't, and they will ultimately fail in their proof. So what does that prove? Nothing, Pops confirmed. So who's going to prove? It would have to be someone who still has a choice, a new... Yes, son, little Eve. And Adam, too? I think Adam already sees the truth, but Eve and her offspring will have to be shown the two paths, order or chaos. That is, good or evil? Yes, son. But say Eve repents and sees the truth. She still has a blemish on her character. How can we accept her back unless someone who has never chosen chaos dies for her? Equal reaction, you said. Equal reaction. Equal reaction. Junior repeated the phrase over and over. And that someone must be perfect and without blemish. Totally loyal, but not an angel, as that would not be fair, as you say, Pop said. That would leave... Junior drew back from the deck and sank onto a bench, his head spinning like a top. We'll talk more later, son, Pop said, turning away, tears welling in his eyes. I've got to get down to earth this morning and teach Adam how to plant. Spirit, who had been standing quietly on the deck, went over to her only son and held him tightly. He was past exhaustion, but would not sleep a wink this night.